For those of you who are out there, I'm going to ask you a favor. This is the first time we've ever done this at IGSHPA, so we probably have a whole membership that doesn't know what a plenary session is about. What this session is going to be about, and I'll kind of open up, this is informal right now, is asking the members and giving you an idea of what's happened with the change of 2.0 that directly involves the members and the member output, or input from, and output, I guess, if you will, because of the, some volunteerism. So if you got some friends that are out there, and I think Garen said the same thing here a little bit, that you think, oh, well, they might not have known and might want to come up, text them up and ask them to come up. We're going to have a second session that follows this up tomorrow, and that second session is going to be where we turn around and have an interactive, and we start looking for the ideas and the direction for the strategic planning committee and the board to go. In other words, where do you want to go? Where do we want to go when we talk about advocacy? What can we do, and how do we bring this organization together, build it, and stuff. So I'll give you a minute if you want to do that, or get on the deal. But or if we do have, talk to the guys that you know as you run across and say, hey, this is something, because it's important for the membership if we want to grow and if we want to come along and meet the needs of what you're doing and what you're in business and so forth, or in your states, or the political structure. So anyway, you second here and let me get organized, and then I'll give it a start. Okay, my name is Kerry Smith. And I am an at-large member of the board, and we have been spending, since January and February of last year, literally hundreds of man-hours working with staff, with committee chairs, trying to reformulate IGSHPA and get it off the ground and make it a members organization instead of a group tent meeting. I shouldn't refer to it that way, but the truth is that we really never talked to the members. It's been a long time. I can remember a couple of times in Stillwater where we kind of had some open discussion, but really there was not a whole lot of member input about where we would need to go and what we need to do. So that said, I'm going to welcome you and thank you for taking the time to come up here. I see some faces I don't know. I see some I do know. And I'm sure that here on the board, sitting here in this nice line, making targets of themselves, are your board and our executive director. And I'd like to turn around and kind of introduce them kind of better than a picture on a one-on-one basis. And so as we had Mike Albertson, and Mike's with Water Furnace, and he's been, he and Dr. Fisher, who's sitting next to him, and Jeremy Cotton down at the end, and I did a tuning of the bylaws that were brought to the table last fall and stuff. There were some things that we had to tidy up, some housekeeping, but we also decided that, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, and again, Dr. Fisher is going to tell you, before we started, there were about 270 corporate members. And those were the people who had the votes. That's who voted on your advisory committee. That's who basically took the direction of this place. The members, we followed, and so forth. So the biggest change we have is that as of about a week and a half ago, when we approved the bylaws, you as a member, as an individual member, have a vote. You're going to have your own section on the advisory committee. Dr. Smith will tell you how that works. You're going to have a member on the board. We're going to expand the board to include at least the general membership so that we have everybody in every sector. Now, general membership can include just about anybody that isn't with the industry, isn't an engineer, architect, designer. Of the 6 sectors we have, is that right? So there's an all-inclusive. That could be academics, it could be regulators, it could be anything, but it's a general group. And in other words, if the half of our membership or 3/4 of our membership, which is about 8,000, are in one of those sectors, you're going to have another 2,000 people that have general membership will have a vote. So again, that will be kind of discussed what's there. Next to Mike is Dr. Fisher, as we said, and then we've got Bob Ingersoll, and Bob is, of course, our executive director, and you heard these guys speak, and then Alan Scobie.
Michael's going to speak next. Michael's going to speak next.
Oh, he is? Okay. I'm glad that. So we're going to keep it as informal. But John Turley, and I want to say, let's start out. John Turley as our president, or your president. Okay? And when Jack talks about us being family, I think we're the Geo family. We take care of all the people out in the country and stuff, and the people that are in this industry that get their hands dirty, the guys that design it, the guys that design the software we use, the academics that do the research we do. We're all together, and we're together in one thing because we got this fever for a technology. And being oil and gas trash up until about 1997, I found this was absolutely elegant. One of the more interesting things I'd ever seen, one of the coolest types of technology. So I just got addicted. So I'm sitting here now because of that addiction and stuff. John Turley's our president. Garen Eubanks is our vice president. He's going to talk a little bit about financing. John's going to talk about kind of a call to action. Alan's our treasurer, and Jeremy down at the end there is our secretary. Don Penn sitting next to him, our second member at large. Don's an engineer. You heard him being introduced to stuff. He's got quite a list of credentials. He's brought a lot of real interesting insight into the board, and also some expertise that we sorely need. So did I miss anybody? I think we got the whole crew. Okay. That said, some of the new provisions we're talking about rolling out to make things that, again, I don't know how much time we have on particularly the advocacy side, but Jack Deanna's going to speak there. I think, Lisa, I think I got you scheduled, don't I? So anyway, but in any way, and Ed Lorenz is going to talk a little bit about the new training and some of the new ways we're going to take this organization there. For various reasons, I'm going to mention that one of the things the board worked on is coming up and trying to figure out how to make the members more engaged on a state-by-state basis. What we recognize is the individual members that we have in different states have a lot of stroke. If you're a water well driller, you're interfacing with the DWR or DEQ, whichever Department of Environmental Quality, Water Rights, whatever it is in your particular state. You're probably out there helping to make code. You're probably helping to turn around and prevent bad code from being made. We've got other people that are in the radiant business or the HVAC business that install ground source heat pumps, so that when we have a code that we recognize as being insufficient to meet our needs, we're going to look at that. But it's adopted state by state. The state members also probably have the clearest path to legislators, both at the local level and the federal level. So, he might be your next door neighbor. He might be your brother-in-law. He might be you. But that's the way we have to do, so we can turn around and we can touch on and start an interface. So we're looking at a state by state. We're going to call it, for like right now, a representative. It might be a liaison, but we're building that up. We have about, I think right now, about 12 states that we have people commit to work with us on it. So that's going to roll out. And so we're going to ask that to be taken back. So while we're doing this, I'm going to turn around and, Jack Heinrich isn't here. That's the only board member I didn't. Where is he? There he is. You've got a seat up here. You're here where I can slap you if you. Anyway, sorry about that. I knew I was missing somebody, but and you're hard to miss. Anyway, that state by state is going to roll out, and we're going to start looking for people and volunteers to help us with that. So we're going to formalize it. We're going to get it. I think in the future meetings, what you're going to see is we're going to have our advisory council meetings for the individual sectors. We're going to have a way for you to introduce each other, to know who's in your sector, how to vote, how to elect your members to the advisory council. That, again, is the structures in the bylaws. If you have any questions, and I'll say this at the end again, if you have any questions, We're going to save them for the end and see how much time we have. And then the next thing we're going to do is tomorrow there's a plenary session that follows this up. But it gives you a day at least to kind of think about what you want out of IGSHPA, questions you have about the structure. How do I join a committee? Where do you need help? Hey, can I handle the state of Alaska? So if I do, I want to get on them real well because I understand the fishing's pretty good. So these are the things that we're talking about doing, is making it your organization. So we'll start out with Mike Albertson and Dr. Fisher and Jeremy to look at, and we're going to go over the changes in the bylaws and try to explain to you how the structure is going to work.
Again, Michael Albertson, I'm with Water Furnace. It's great to see you all here today. I've been working with Oklahoma State and actually prior to IGSHPA back in about 1981 or so, and so it's been a long haul. And I wanted to, they actually gave me 45 minutes to talk to you guys, but Kerry stole all my thunder except for about 2 minutes, so this is going to be really brief. But whenever I was given the opportunity to serve on the board of IGSHPA, there were a couple things that I wanted to do from a preparatory standpoint, and that was that having been in this industry for 30 plus years and being involved in IGSHPA in different facets of the industry, one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we got right is what a very, very clear definition of where IGSHPA is going to be going forward. And with Bob Ingersoll and some of the reports that were given last year, it kind of energized me to, try to help make a difference. But with that said, I also went to a lot of members of IGSHPA that I have known for, a decade, 2 decades, almost 3 decades in the industry, and was asking them, what are they missing? And I was calling members that didn't re-up, and I said, well, just out of curiosity, why didn't you re-up, or why did you not renew your membership, or have you referred a colleague or a competitor or somebody to join IGSHPA, and if you did, why, and if you did not, why? So, this was just kind of a preparatory exercise I went through myself, and during one of the board meetings, the first board meetings we had, our President John Turley blessed a few of us with the capability of being able to take a look at a revision of the bylaws. So Kerry had introduced the bylaw committee, and it's myself and it's Jeremy Cotton, Dr. Dan Fisher, and Kerry Smith. And admittingly, this took a little bit longer than what we anticipated, but we did get it completed. One of the things that we kept in mind as we were looking at these bylaws, and Dr. Dan Fisher is going to go through a little bit more in detail. I'm not going to get into that. But number one, the purpose of the bylaws is we wanted to make sure that we get it right. Okay? We put a lot of time, we put a lot of effort, a lot of webinars, phone calls, meetings, so on and so forth, to try to get it right. And getting it right is that the bylaws are a solid foundation for governance of IGSHPA moving forward. And part of that is to ensure, talking to past members that had not renewed their membership and all that, we wanted to make sure that the membership, and I'm not talking to manufacturers or utilities or distributors or whoever, but the true membership, the guys that are in the trenches, making it happen day in, day out, the ones that we provide a deliverable to in the way of training, research and development and things like that, that have some skin in the game, okay? And part of that is we wanted to make sure that we were ensuring that every single member, general membership, no matter whatever category that they belong in IGSHPA as a member, that they have a very clear voice and ensure a representation of what they need, what they don't need, and are able to voice their opinion on the direction of IGSHPA moving forward. So I cannot stress how important and valuable it was for us to take all that into consideration whenever we retooled these bylaws. So as an introduction, I'd now like to turn it over to Dr. Dan and let him go through a little more details. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Michael. As many of you know, I'm a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering at Oklahoma State University, and I see at least one professor in the crowd here. So, you know, as a professor, our greatest challenge, or one of our greatest challenges, is to make really boring material interesting. You know, and I thought thermodynamics was it, but then I drew the short straw here, and now I have to try to make the bylaws, changes to the bylaws, interesting. So, not sure how this is going to go, but I'll give it a try anyway. So the bylaws came to us sort of a first draft. We started looking at them. As Michael said, a lot of input from membership. And what we thought going into it would be a relatively short, quick polishing of the bylaws really turned into a fairly major effort. So 20 of the 38 sections in the bylaws have been changed in some way, and the changes range from fairly trivial clarity, consistency. One of the major changes was decoupling the membership from accreditation, and this we felt was very important to solidify our membership and to move very strongly toward a member-driven organization. We also worked very hard to strengthen the role of the industry sectors in the bylaws. And in the original bylaws, there was this very short, pretty vague little section there that sort of mentioned industry sectors, and we retooled that to create industry sector councils with membership and voting rights and a chair and a vice chair, and this was really a critical change. And finally, we created, in addition to the industry sectors, the industry sector councils, a general membership council, so that every single member of IGSHPA has a home, and everyone has a voice that can be heard, and a way to engage in and to influence the direction and the future of the organization. So I created, we love snazzy little PowerPoint slides here, and I like to see things graphically. So I created a little graphic here to try to illustrate this with the voting membership at the bottom. Every member votes, and every member self-selects into one of the industry sector councils or into the general membership council. So now the IGSHPA membership is organized in some way, and this is very helpful in driving and influencing the direction of the organization. So each of the industry sector councils has a chair and a vice chair elected by the membership of those councils. Likewise, the general membership council has a chair and a vice chair that are elected by those members. And the chairs of the industry sector councils and the chair and the vice chair of the general membership council form the advisory council. And this is the the highest council in IGSHPA, the way we have way we visualize the leadership here, and the way we've set up the advisory council, they serve as the nominating council for the board of directors. So the board of directors isn't a good old boys club. It's your board, and the bylaws very clearly set up the connection, very short, straight line from the membership to the board. So the advisory council then puts together the slate of candidates for the board. When there's an opening on the board, the terms are very clearly, and the length of term is very clearly defined. When one of those terms comes open, the advisory council puts together the slate of candidates for the board. And the membership then the membership then votes on that slate. So it's a closed loop here, and in a very real sense, driven very strongly by the membership, and we believe that this will energize the organization. We believe that it will bring new ideas and fresh perspectives, and that collectively IGSHPA will be much stronger with an engaged and a membership that really drives the whole organization forward. Okay, that's it for me. Kerry, who's next? Would you like to take it from here?
Thank you.
And we can.
Well
I guess
done.
we can get this down off of here.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. All right, and so save questions here for the end. I'm going to ask John Turley to kind of come up and just kind of give it, since he's our president. We'll start there, all right?
Good morning. I'd like to start by thanking Kerry, as I mentioned in the opening session, for bringing this idea to us. And Kerry, if you know him, we are very, very lucky to have somebody who's not only so active in IGSHPA, but also well-respected and leads committees in ASHRAE and other organizations. NGWA, and Jack's going to tell me a few more. But truly, that brings us so much experience in a broad part of our industry, and it's just been invaluable. And I'm really glad that he was elected as an at-large member of the board. Kerry asked me as a part of this plenary session to give some background. And in the context of what Dr. Dan just showed us in the screen, I'll start with, how did these people you see in front of you end up in front of you, and why? As you saw there, the advisory council nominates candidates to be elected to the board. And I don't believe we went into this level of detail, but we have 6 sectors, now 7 in IGSHPA, and we're going to try to maintain a balance of sector representation on the board at all times throughout whatever follows next. But last year, as you may recall, if you've been in IGSHPA for a while, and I see past chairmen or presidents of IGSHPA, such as Phil Shane sitting here, we had an advisory council. That second tier, the advisory council, always existed. The difference was it had no real power, is the wrong word, but the advisory council is just as its name implies. It was a group of people elected by membership that met to discuss what they felt membership needed, and they would advise the executive director and staff of that, and then the executive director and staff would fit that into what their plans already may have been, or what they were able to afford to do. But back to what I said, these people here sitting in front of you were all nominated by the existing advisory council, which was chaired at the time by Jack Henrik, I believe, before it was essentially disbanded. So we had an advisory council, they nominated candidates for the board, and then, as you may recall, there was an election through email balloting that elected the people you see here. Then this group of people you see here had to turn around and reform another advisory council. And we had to do that before sectors had been formed, and we could do it through the channels that will be developed later. But every year as we move through this process, it will become more automatic and more democratic, if you will. Carrie asked me to also make a call to action here. If you have been around me much, you know I have a passion for this industry. I have not been in this industry near as long as Michael Albertson or Alan Scobie or some of the other people he's sitting up here, but I've been in it a while now. My first exposure to geothermal on a commercial scale was seeing some teleconferences that Dr. Bose and Phil Shane and Ellen Trick and a few others in our industry 25, 26 years ago did that were beamed to universities around the country, and you could go sit in an auditorium and see these people, and lo and behold, 26 years later, I'm sitting in a room with the people that I was just in awe of. But I feel that the responsibility of the people who are actively involved now is to become mentors of the people coming into our industry. It bothers me when, and I guess this isn't unusual, if you've been in contracting or engineering or what have you, you do projects, you typically never hear a word from the ones that went well, but you will hear immediately from the ones where there's an issue. And it's somewhat the same way with an organization like this. We'll so often hear the as Jack would call it, the bitching, but seldom the positive things. And yet when you give people an opportunity to become a part or to contribute or to help change it in a way that will make it better, they're suddenly conspicuously absent. We've got to change that. We've got to make people understand that they have an opportunity to sit up here. In fact, we can't wait for the day when they do. Everybody out there has an avenue to become as involved in IGSHPA as they want or choose to be, depending on what they feel it can do for them or their businesses. So without prolonging this, I'd like to remind everybody that one of the first areas that you can become involved is on the committee level. We have 7 committees, and you've already heard about them: the conference committee, the marketing committee, the membership, training, advocacy, standards, and research. These all need people, every one of them, and they all need more input from a wider group of people. So I'm urging you to, if you're not involved, and I realize it takes time and it is a volunteer effort, to become involved in some manner. Help make this thing better. We truly now own this organization. It will survive or fail based on what we do and how passionate we are about it. I for one, think it's critical to the industry that IGSHPA not only survives but thrives. We need the training, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to sustain good projects as this industry starts to really grow again. We need the standards. We need the advocacy. We need to get our voice to Washington and to the states to let them know why our technology is not only economical, but it will help. We can help them on the path to the low carbon future that we all talk about. At any rate, I'm going to stop now and turn it over to Alan Scobie. But please get involved if you're not, and I see most of you out there actually are involved, and thank you. But become a part of our committees.
Thank everybody for being here. Of course, all of these things that we hope to do require some sort of revenue, and our source of income today is memberships, and we do training, those sorts of things. And in order to grow our revenue base so that we can do more development of documents or manuals or some of these code activities that are going to require constant monitoring and maintenance in order to make sure that our technology is viable, we need some secure revenue stream, and again today that membership is the principal revenue stream. So we encourage, obviously everybody here is probably a member, but we want more members. So anybody you know that could become a member or should be a member in your mind, encourage them to become a member so that we can finance the things that we need to do. And there will be some things that we talk about that you'll hear about later, grants and those sorts of things that will help, but we desperately need the membership for revenue. Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
You bet.
Dr. Kirtley, would you like to kind of come up and talk to us a little bit about Dr. Kirtley is Vice Dean. You have to help me here. Assistant Dean. Help me with that.
For outreach and extension.
For outreach and extension, okay. And it's not that I don't know that, it's just that we haven't had a whole lot of time to talk, but I've enjoyed what time I've had with him. But I do want to say that this is the gentleman that kind of oversees the activities that are going on and advises us through the maze of Oklahoma State University. And that, he's very important, he's been very supportive. So I'm going to turn it over and you're going to kind of give us an idea of what you see.
Thank you. Thank you, Kerry. Board of Directors, thank you for this opportunity. Dan Fisher probably should be up here talking about research because he's been so involved in that, but I want to talk just a little bit about where, from our perspective, and when I say our, probably the leadership at Oklahoma State, where we see the importance of research and also collaboration. If you go back in the history of IGSHPA, almost 30 years now, really research, what I would call applied research, that Dr. Bose was involved in, Dr. Fisher, Dr. Spittler, that type of applied research that worked with industry, with Phil and Garen, to really start to build the ground source industry and the advancements that we have. Really, I won't say gave birth to the industry, but I think certainly strengthened the industry and helped start to develop a market share. That same thing applies today. Research is probably more important now because, well, for many reasons, but certainly we're in a competitive environment, and we're not necessarily competing with ourselves, but with the gas industry. Obviously, they have a vested interest in commercial and residential heating and cooling. So through research, and again, I'll use the term applied research, that brings us innovation that makes us more competitive, more efficient, and helps with the bottom line and the appeal for the customers. Now, at this point right now, unfortunately, IGSHPA, in terms of revenue, we don't have a lot of extra money and at OSU to invest in research activities, but that will change. Universities go through funding cycles just like our industry does, just like the ground source industry does. And right now at Oklahoma State, we're in one of those valleys, if you will, in the cycle. Our legislature is predicting $1 billion deficit in Oklahoma next year, so that limits what we can do internally with funding research. But again, that will change. And in fact, I was visiting with Dan this morning about this, that there'll be a time when we can start investing in research again. I was very pleased to see that there's actually 4 universities on the agenda that are going to be talking about their research and their activities from outside the United States. We have Australia, we have China, we have Sweden, we have Alabama, all here to talk about their I couldn't help myself, but anyway, to talk about their research, and And then also Cornell University, I think there's a gentleman from Cornell on the agenda. So that's very exciting in terms of research. And that leads me into the next thought about collaboration. And that demonstrates collaboration. When things are really good, I've found there's not a lot of need for collaboration. People go their own way and they have everything they need, and there's not really a driving force to bring people together. Folks, collaboration is going to be a must in the future. Whether times are good or bad, the best thing we can do for the industry is collaborate. And not only amongst the manufacturers and the suppliers, not only that type of collaboration, but amongst the organizations. I think there's a real opportunity, and it continues to be here, for collaboration between IGSHPA and NGWA and GEO to build a future. In fact, if we're going to be successful, we have to collaborate in those areas. I think we have to collaborate with foreign partners also to expand that part of the business. We are the international associations. In fact, we had a meeting, I think it was last week, with an engineering firm from India that is really pioneering the use of ground source technology in a tropical climate. Well, that could open up a lot of opportunities for our industry and a whole new market. Those are the kinds of firms we need to be collaborating with. So collaboration will remain a very high priority. It will also remain a high priority within OSU. We're beginning to, through Garen's efforts, we're beginning to work with the Spears School of Business to look at economics of different ways to fund ground source heat pump installations, and that's going to continue. So research will remain a priority from our perspective, as will collaboration, and we'll continue to support the board and the membership in any way we can to make those things a reality. Kerry, is that right?
I think you did
okay.
a good job.
Thank you.
I will say, though, that in my career, twice, and today was the second time in way too many years, 1972, that I happened to be sitting in a training session in Houston, Texas, being indoctrinated into the oil field, and in the process of the class, there was a heated discussion going on about Michigan and OU and how badly Michigan had beat OU that point in time. And I listened to this, and being a Yankee, guy out of Pittsburgh, and my first undergraduate work was done in Ohio, I listened to this, and since all this was acronyms, I was in Texas, I decided to stand up for my side of the Mason-Dixon line. I stood up and I said, you know, I need to clarify things. And so if it wasn't OU that got whooped, it was Ohio State University that beat Michigan this year, and I don't understand. And why are you guys, what year are you talking about? And they looked at me and he says, son, we talking about Oklahoma University. So for the second time when you mentioned Alabama, when you came up here, I came this close to that same mistake. So anyway, that's it. Bob, can you come up and give us a few words?
Got to get on my glasses. Hi again, I'm Bob Ingersoll. I'm the Executive Director of IGSHPA, and I think I've met all of you now, but shame on me if I haven't met some of you, and please excuse me if I call you by the wrong name. It's just it's a mental thing. I'm going to be talking about some of the things I almost call them small projects that we felt had some value early on, and these are things we could do even while the board was being formed and the committees are being formed. So I'll kind of go through some of those and what our results have been. Aaron Portman led an effort to do a survey, this was probably March or so of this year, early on this year, to get an opening data point with, we hear anecdotal sort of information from people all the time, but we wanted, a structured survey. And we'll go over some of those results. We switched over Geo Outlook, our publication, to, excuse me, an electronic format called Flipping Book. And we'll talk about the yearly membership that because of the cycles, basically we have 2 times during the year, June and I guess January, to where there's a major push there. And our new web-based forum that you're going to hear a lot more, you've already heard some about, similar to what NGWA does. The survey, some numbers there, we returned 663 out of 7,800 or so at an 8.5% return rate. And I understand, particularly for our initial survey, that this was very good. I think Aaron heard that you kind of shoot for one of these at least to get 7%, and 10% is really very good. So for our first survey, that was some good results. 74.6% of current members and 25% of former members participated. The survey was sent to our complete database of current and former members. We had an excellent intern that works in Aaron's group that was able to take this information. A lot of it was just text feedback and sort of summarize this. Of course, this supported what we were also hearing by word of mouth. We need more technical support without having to pay a webinar. We need an open source library, which and neither of these things really existed yet. More access to technical resources and a technical forum for questions, technical blog and training that is more specific to the targeted group, not a 10,000-foot view. Training and continuing ed, more localized, both location and specific to the region it's in, and offered through, again, webinars. This is electronic training and additional hands-on training. And a greater emphasis in public awareness, advocacy, and marketing collaboration between state groups. For Geo Outlook and Flipping Book, again, we came from a manual paper-based publication that was mailed out to our members on a quarterly basis for Geo Outlook. We started with Flipping Book the first quarter of 2015. I hope that you've all seen the links that go out that give you access to the electronic version of Geo Outlook. We've seen growth in the readership for the third quarter that is more than double than the first 2 quarters combined. So we're on an expected exponential slope. It started off slow, but gaining ground rapidly there. And with the magazines, of course, you know where you sent them, you know how many you sent, but you don't know who reads and what they read. And this is giving us a lot more information coming back as to what's going on there. We email all members, and members then can forward their email list. So the original recipients can become distributors of the information as well. We can get page-specific information as to what people are viewing. Like I said before, on the magazine and the pages they're entering and exiting the text on. The advertisements are also clickable to go straight to the advertisers' websites. Another subject, again, the June 2015 membership renewal. Here are some of the results in all the categories. We expected, we were concerned that we were going to get a historical, at best, 10% return on these renewals. We actually received a 22%. This was even before the membership committee was put together, we put together what we called a triage committee and brainstormed some things to do there, and are pleased with the results of that. Again, a 22% increase in June versus a 10% historical. Some of the things that was done in that triage group was a marketing campaign. We got our president involved directly into that in writing emails to members. We went from a 3-year, we still have the 3-year membership, but we started offering a 1-year membership, and we reduced the price of the 3-year membership from $450 to $400. Is that right, Roshan? So this will give us information as that, along with the survey results, as to how to attack this in coming years. The web-based forum, and we're going to have a lot more information on this, similar to what NGWA is currently doing. In fact, we use the same software, Higher Logic. This is a result of what we heard in the survey. This is what people want. They want these forum communities to be able to post their issues, their concerns, and have like-minded people to be able to respond and carry on an electronic discussion on this. And I believe this started today or yesterday, actually. Today? Again, we partner with Higher Logic, providers of such forums for over 25 million users and clients such as NGWA. This will serve, and I'm repeating myself here, again, this serves as a tool. And all of you that are in LinkedIn, we want to bring you into this. I don't know that does not require you to vacate LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn. But ask for your help to really get a good start on this and get this going. And again, all users in the conference have been provided with username, password, and other members will receive this information after the conference.
Thanks, Bob. All right. Well, appreciate that. Garen? We're going to get you to come up here. I think Garen's going to hopefully tell us a little bit about some of the exciting things that are going on that we're trying to link in to help build our business base.
Good morning, people. How are you? Thank you for responding, okay? I'm going to get right down here with you, all right? We've got a lot of things going on, and I'm going to throw a question to Randy and Mark. They don't know it's coming. What's the payback on a power plant? Huh? Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. And so we pay for that through the rate. And that's a fair deal, isn't it? All right. So every time that we are analyzed against any other technology, we always hear the term, what's the payback? Don't we? Well, let's change that a little bit. John, can you hear me? Okay. There's two paths out there that we can go and maybe get creative on helping things. And the barrier for ground source is what? higher first cost because of that utility in the ground heat exchanger. Well, let's think about this. And Michael Albertson, can you explain to us what GeoGeddon is?
GeoGeddon. We've been going through for quite some time a business development process, hoping for the best and planning for the worst. A phrase my father always used, and many of you know him. He's in the industry for a number of years. But we started referring to January 1 of 2017, if or when the tax credits go away, and if the U.S. market follows what happened in Canada when the eco-energy programs went away. Their geothermal sales residentially dropped by more than 50%. Okay? So it's something we don't take lightly. And I kind of coined the phrase during our business development processes at Water Furnace and throughout the industry, talking to other industry leaders. And it was hard to, I just couldn't keep saying January 1, 2017, so it's GeoGeddon. So that's what it is.
Thank you. And he's talking about something that might expire that may hinder what we're going to do in the future. But let's break this thing down into two areas. We have tax credits and financing. Right now, Geo's doing a great job working on the tax credits. Thank you so much. Keep it up, all right? Because we've got to have both these things to make this thing work, because we don't know what the future is going to be, do we? So there's some of us that have taken another track, and that's the financing, all right? So if we can remove that first cost barrier over a very long length of time, that might soften whatever impact is going to happen, all right? So there are two tracks, and we want to go down those. And let's get a handle on the size of what we're talking about. Does anybody know what a quadrillion is? How do you explain that? All right. Residentially and commercially, we use 20 quadrillion BTUs. Of that 20 quadrillion, which is a big number, sorry. Okay. In a residence, according to EIA, they say that 65.4% of that is used for BTUs, for space conditioning, water heating, and things like that. Commercially, 60% of it is for space conditioning, ventilation, domestic hot water. This room you're in, the biggest load is space conditioning, right? Your ground heat exchanger guys, if we design these things right and put them in right, and we do good training, which we're going to do, right? Residentially, we can directly supply 48% of that whole home's needs from the earth. Well, excuse me, commercially it would be 48. Residentially, it's 52% with COP of 4. I think we can get those numbers, can't we? So when we do that, we've created a system now that has zero marginal cost going forward for the energy we're getting from the earth. That's pretty good. And that's why people are now starting to understand that maybe financing these ground heat exchangers is really something that they might want to do. All right. So, what paths does financing take? It can take a number of paths. One could be a rate-based tariff by utility. And we saw a water company up there. What they tend to do, I'm not getting after you utilities, but this is what they tend to do, is they love volumetric pricing. All right, so, you know, that's a good thing, maybe a bad thing. Does anybody know about utilities that are doing that? Mark, do you know anything about that? Come on. Well, talk to us. How's it working? Where are you doing it at?
Uh-oh, that's a mistake.
Very quickly. What we've opted to do is to take and look at it from a different perspective, is I think where Darren's trying to go is, as a utility, we start to look at the capacity that we could avoid if we could take and get our residential and commercial industrial customers to use geothermal technology. We've done quite a bit of research, but the concept is to take the ground loop and treat it as a utility service, where we amortize the cost of that very similar to the way that we would a power plant over a given period of time. We make a rate of return on that service, but by doing that, we've significantly reduced the upfront cost of the homeowner. And we have some very successful models with several of our distribution cooperatives that are implementing and doing that right now. We actually even see now spec homes that once the cost of the loop has been taken out, now a spec home builder looks at that and sees, wow, you know, I can have a really effective, and we're picking up like 560 home housing additions and things in Oklahoma with a relatively low utility cost to be able to do that. So,
What is your rate, do you think? Blended? No, the blended rate for electricity. Yeah, something like that, okay. And that works in that low cost, doesn't it? There's a lot of places where it's a lot higher than that, okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jared?
Yeah. Am I done?
Yeah, no, you're not done, but I know that.
Okay, so we've got some people here that are doing third-party financing. They're down there on the floor. I'd like you to stop by and meet maybe David Jankowski with Francis Renewable. He'll help you with financing. Put it up.
Can I help summarize that too? I cut him off short, but we are short of time, and we're going to need about an extra 10 minutes if you all want to bear with us. If not, just go have lunch, I guess. But what Garen's saying is that what's popping up across the United States are multiple different methods of individuals, organizations, utilities, and so forth that now want to finance, and they want some way to measure it, and they want some way to turn around and figure out how they can quantify it. So a lot of the solar guys, can you not hear, John? A lot of the solar guys have been contacting us and looking at saying, gee, maybe this is the next stage. Interestingly enough, a lot of oil and gas people who now don't have anything to do have been contacting us. And so there's some very interesting opportunities. Lisa's going to tell us a little bit about some of the changes and what we're going to do with standards, and go from there, and then we're going to get Jack up here.
Hi, my name is Lisa Malin. I'm chair of the Standards Committee, and Carrie has given me 3 minutes, and I promised to take only 3 minutes because standards can be very dull. I get it. But it's super important to our industry. So what's happening in standards? Oh my gosh, there is a ton happening in standards right now. I'm not talking just within IGSHPA, but within our industry. It is amazing to me that for such a small segment of an HVAC, of our total HVAC industry, there's been a lot of activity. I don't know if it's, you know, trying to keep up with the Joneses, or people are just finally realizing that we're out there, but we've got several things going on. In fact, you're going to hear today about the binational standard. Several people in the United States through the different organizations have been supporting the revision to CSA C448. I don't want to get into it any more than that. I just say go check out the session today at 2 o'clock. Uniform Solar Energy and Hydronics Code. The IAPMO folks decided that they wanted to take their hydronics code and include solar, thermal, geothermal, and PV. I don't know how that all fits together, but they've created it, and now there's a geothermal code there that's going to be released this year. International Mechanical Code, ASTM E44.09, that one may not happen. There's always been ASHRAE 90.1, where we need to have some geothermal heat pump representation on. Annex 27, I just learned out about today or yesterday. It's a European code that, or standard that is being developed. And then, of course, there's the local ordinances and state regulations that all of us know most about based on where we're actually doing business. So I would like to ask you to help us through standards and through IGSHPA, keep an eye on our industry. It's not just my responsibility as the standards chair to get out there and keep an eye on all this. I need your help. You don't necessarily have to be a voting member. You don't even honestly have to be an IGSHPA member. We'd prefer that because we want some expertise on our standards committee, but we do also have some open spots on our standards committee to help us make sure that we have a wide representation of the industry serving to maintain the current IGSHPA standards with IGSHPA. And then finally, we really need to have some people available to us from time to time to go out and give testimony or to advocate for our industry when these codes and standards are going through revision cycles, and that's happening all over the United States all the time. So get involved, come talk to me, come talk to the board. We could always use a couple more pairs of hands because more hands makes less work. So thank you, everyone, and I hope that was not more than 3 minutes.
Lisa's another one that's put in hundreds of hours of work working on this, but this is critical. We're getting play. We're getting our name in code. So that's the important part as we get through that. Jack, I'm going to ask you to come up, and I know that this is going to be tough. I don't see Phil, and so why don't you give us a quick shot at advocacy?
Be quick. Okay, we heard about Geogeddon, is that what you just called that, Mike? Well, there's another reason why we're important. The EPA's 111D, or the Clean Power Plan, which is, and I'm going to read this, requires states to come up with plans to reduce carbon by 870 million tons by 2030, 32% below 2005. I've been asked by the National Association of State Energy Officials to work with them to get GEO into every state energy plan. What that's going to do, because they recognize, I've used Mark's numbers that he's found out in his initiative, and they're really interested, and they recognize that GEO can really help them become part of that goal, to achieve those goals. This is going to do us a lot of good, but we've got to be on board with this also. We've got to, IGSHPA's part, we're going to have to develop infrastructure where there's no infrastructure. We're going to have to strengthen our infrastructure where there is infrastructure, or that people have just not gotten into this. This Clean Power Plan, even though, you know, utilities are wringing their hands, they're talking about closing 60 coal plants, 60. Now, in where I live, Philadelphia and Northeast, we have a lot of nuclear. It's not going to affect us that much, but it is going to affect states that have a lot of coal plants, and a lot of coal plants we need to be in those states. So the Clean Power Plan may be the answer. I'm not saying that the initiatives are going to go away, or the grants. Quite frankly, I think we need to have Plan B. I think the Clean Power Plan, even though it's affecting a lot of people adversely, I think this can be our golden ticket to shine. So I would challenge everybody to get involved with their states. I know I'm working with the Association of State Energy Officials, but we're going to need everybody in those areas to come up and step forward and say we have an infrastructure, we need infrastructure. So the Clean Power Plan 111D, even though it sounds horrendous, it's going to be good for us. Is that okay?
Great. Thanks, Jack. So we have a three-legged stool, huh? We have private financing, we have the EPA, we have state advocacy, and we have the incentive program. And it's not 4 legs, it's 3. But we really have some multiple pathways to go. Ed Lorenz, what we're going to do in training.
Good morning. The training committee met yesterday. A couple things that have been happening. First of all, the inspector's course was delivered yesterday. I think there were, 18 people in the course yesterday? And I think sounds like it was pretty well received. I've talked to a few people that took the course. Quite happy with it, very happy with it. I don't think it's going to be in evolution for the next while, but it's a very, very good solid base for it. The accredited installer course, the committee voted yesterday basically to have about 6 to 8 trainers come into Stillwater at some point in the next 3 months. That was put forward to the board, basically looking at splitting the AI course into 3 segments. One is for the design of a residential small commercial system. The other one would be for the installation of the interior equipment, would include commissioning and all the other things that go with it that they have to look after. The other one would be for the ground heat exchanger installer, and that would include vertical, horizontal, surface water loops, everything. So that hopefully working with the new process that the IGSHPA staff has been working on, that hopefully will come out to be, by this time next year, we're looking at hoping to get that in place. And the CGD course, we've got 13 people in there this week. It's continues to evolve as more data or more as the technology changes over time. So that's about it for now. I think that's about it, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, the staff is looking at getting ANSI certification for at least some of the courses over the next while. So it gives the training courses a bit more credibility as well. So any questions on any of that? Okay, thank you.
Great, I thank you. And for a minute here, what I want to explain to you how this is going to work. Or let me back up just a second and make the second plug. Part of this is what we need to do when we start locking in the membership and we start bringing everybody together and we start creating the conduits for information. You can see that there's a lot on our plate. And so hence we created the state program where we have somebody that we can contact or can contact us, because this information needs to flow both ways. We're going to have kind of a separate council. I don't know if it's going to come under the advocacy committee or be a separate committee by itself, where these state representatives and so forth can get together and talk about what they're doing for legislation, wording, or whatever have you. So this all hinges on being actively engaging all of our members in what's going on, and I think that's completely unique to what IGSHPA has been doing for the last couple of years. So we're going to give you a day, a whole lot of period time, since we've done this for hundreds of hours. But we're going to give you a day to think about this and talk to your friends about it, talk to other people, other members that you're going to run across, and think about the things that you want from this organization. And I want you to think about some of the things that you can give to this organization. And one of the things that you can give is your ideas, thoughts, and a little bit of time to help us implement those, or at least explain them so that we can see if we can get them implemented. We need to build our membership. So tomorrow, just after lunch, we're going to have phase 2 of the plenary session. And what that's going to involve is whatever group wants to do, we're going to have a one-on-one with the board, do that. Now, in lieu of that, anybody that wants to stand up, and I've got about 7 minutes from what we actually thought this meeting would go. You guys have any comments or questions that we might be able to respond to right away over particularly the material we've given you? That was easy. See you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Oh, I forgot. This guy right here has been running strategic planning. We dropped that on him in June. And he has just done an absolutely fantastic job of getting and bringing out in coordination. And we have engaged some non-board members, non-committee members on that strategic planning. So if you're interested in that, that's kind of a fun committee to be on. It's real interesting. So thank you.